Democrats already calling Governor Walker out on his new rule that gives new teachers no financial incentive to pursue higher degrees or certification. Joining me is Representative Mark Pocan. What's your reaction to this rule that was quietly pushed through by the governor?
Yeah, it looks like what Governor Walker did while he's busy giving political bonuses to his political cronies. At the same time, he did a rule that essentially takes away the ability to automatically have teachers who go for higher education. Some of the add-ons that affect their pay now aren't going to be calculated necessarily for pay for teachers. And according to the folks that we've talked to, that could be as much as a 30% cut in wages for a teacher. And that just doesn't make any sense. This has been a really tough budget on schools. And now if we're going to go and take away that kind of pay to teachers, you're really going to affect public education in this state. And I think the governor just made a terrible move.
It also appears he made this move with little or no publicity or explanation. How hard is it going to be for teachers and school districts to figure out what's going on?
Well, that's the thing is, the governor, in one of his many power grabs this session, he took away the legislature's ability to have more say over some of the rulemaking authority. So what he says kind of stands, and this is one of these areas where one of his rule changes essentially is going to affect teachers and their higher educational degrees and how that factors in for their pay. The real problem with that is, again, there's no check and balance. This is one person making these decisions. And while the governor will say school districts could still voluntarily recognize it, we know with 426 districts, they can all operate differently. You're not going to know what the rules are from one district to the next. And that's not good for teachers, and that's not good for kids, and that's not good for education. The governor made a real big mistake.
You have a lot of parents, I imagine, who are very worried about what this means for their kids, about whether their teachers are going to have advanced master's degrees or national certification 5 or 6 years down the road. Not a lot of time before the recall to get information about this out to people. What should people do if they're concerned?
Well, I think people really have to be heard in the upcoming, recall election and be heard as much as possible, because so many things that have happened this legislative session, from the collective bargaining changes to the photo ID implementation to the budget that slashed $1.6 billion from education. There are so many changes that have happened to Wisconsin that I don't think fall in the spirit of Wisconsin. It's not partisan. It's really about where people from Wisconsin have their values. And Governor Walker has just overreached time and time again. I just think people really need to be heard, and the best way they can be heard is in the upcoming recall election.
You just mentioned another thing that Governor Walker did, I think, pretty quietly, and that is reinstating bonuses for some select public employees. Is that right?
Yeah, basically he reinstated and put out hundreds of thousands of dollars in salary bonuses to essentially political appointments, political crony positions. At the same time, he's cutting teachers' wages through another rule change. It really makes no sense, no common sense whatsoever, and I think it shows some of the problems we've had the last session with the governor just overreaching and taking more and more power and then trying to consolidate it among his political appointments. We already know there's a John Doe investigation that's really around this, very similar sort of issue, and now we're seeing it happen in bonuses. It stinks. Something doesn't pass the smell test, and I think the people in Wisconsin really are getting tired of this sort of action.
I'm talking with Representative Mark Pocan. I talked with a teacher not too long ago who was near tears at the thought of Governor Walker not getting recalled. But I think it's a very real possibility that Walker will stay in office. What's the game plan from Democrats if the recall is not successful and you have these budget cuts and these new rules that a lot of people say are really hurting our schools?
Well, whether the governor's recalled or not, this is a rule that has to change. If you can't account for advanced degrees for a teacher to be determining their pay, like we've done always in Wisconsin, you're really, trying to hurt the pool of people you have that are educators and who are taking care of our children. It's just a really bad idea, and I think that, trying to just have it happen voluntarily is not enough. We need to go back to the system that's made Wisconsin one of the best states for education, and this quality loss that we're having under Scott Walker just got to stop. And I think we can hopefully convince people in a bipartisan way that these ideas are just wrong-headed for Wisconsin.
Representative Mark Pocan, thanks so much for taking the time to share your thoughts on this with me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.